at that very same time, the war in Korea started and the Americans stopped the supply of B-29 aircraft. So we sat at Conningsby, fully trained air crew and ground crew, and other than an Anson and a Tiger Moth, we had no aircraft. And we sat there for 6 weeks just doing nothing, hanging around, playing cards, and eventually, suddenly, an American B-29 bomber arrived. It was quickly painted in RAF markings, and my crew, we were chosen to do the first flight of a B-29 aircraft from Conningsby, and that's how we started our bomber, B-29 bomber flying.
And what was it like inside the B-29?
Well, it was totally different from the Lancaster. The crew sat in pressurised compartments and heated and ventilated. You didn't need to wear any flying clothing at all. It was just like flying in an airliner. And of course, the gunnery system at that time was the most advanced in the world, and it was completely different to anything we'd ever seen before. All the gun turrets were remotely controlled. The gun turrets were outside the pressurized compartment, and the whole system was something like we'd never ever seen before. And of course we had to train on how to use it all, but it was so different from sitting in a gun turret in a Lancaster freezing to death. It was just like flying in an airliner, completely different, so comfortable. And because of the difficulty in servicing such a big aircraft, they developed a routine. If you got airborne, you were going to be up for at least 8 hours. Every crew member had different exercises they had to do, and if it was serviceable, you stayed in the air for 8 hours. So flights in your logbook mounted up and up and up very quickly. But it was just like flying in an airliner with a gun turret.
Where would you fly over on those 8 hours? What sort of area would you
Well, to give you an example, we used to do long-range flights. They fitted extra fuel tanks in the Bombay, big round tanks. And a sort of flight we could do, take off from Conningsby, fly to Holland, then to Germany, right down across Germany, over the Alps, down the full length of Italy to North Africa, Tunis, turn round and come back over Malta, the Mediterranean islands, then up the full length of France, and then the whole length of England, right up to the top of Scotland, then turn around, fly down the east coast and do a practice bomb attack on a target in the North Sea, drop some smoke bombs and then go back to land. The length of time that we were in the air was something like 4 or 5 hours daylight and then nearly 10 hours at night. That was the longest flight we did. And I remember on the last one I did, sitting in the crew bus coming back, I was with the engineer and he said, it's a good thing we didn't have to overshoot when we landed, because I'd noticed coming into land he stopped one of the engines. I said, why did you stop the engine? He said, I didn't stop it, it ran out of fuel. He said, if we'd had to overshoot, I don't think we could have made a full circuit. We were so low on fuel. So we had a near escape from having to make a crash landing. But that was some trip, believe me. You were thoroughly worn out by the time you went back to bed.
How many crew would there have been on that journey?
A crew, there were 2 pilots, a bomb aimer, a navigator, wireless operator. We used to fly with 3 gunners, but a full crew was 4 gunners. And at the back was another radar operator. I can't think of the name. He was like a secondary navigator, but he sat looking at the screen all the time and helping the navigator with the navigation. So you were a big crew. And of course, because you were up so long, you used to take quite a lot of food rations. You were issued with food rations. And we used to supplement them by buying at a local shop little tins of baby food, because we found we had a big signalling lamp. If we held the trigger down on the lamp, it got quite hot. It was like a hot plate, and you could put a tin of baby food on it for a few minutes and warm it up, and then pour it into a cup and have hot soup with your rations. Completely illegal, but we used to do it anyway.
It sounded as though you needed it on that length of trip.
Yes.
Anything else about the B-29s that was different? Was
No, I don't think so.
No.
We never had any trouble in all the flights we did. Everything went very smoothly. It was a credit to the ground crew, having to spend so long. They had to service them out in the open. The aeroplanes were too big to fit in the RAF-sized hangar, so all the work had to be done outside. So it was a credit to them that we could do such long flights without any trouble.
Yeah, because they'll have been working in all weathers, won't they, on the ground
Yes,
crew?
they had a rough time, really. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, Jeff, well thanks for sharing that about the B-29s as well, so really appreciate it. Thank you.